You're listening to the Weekend Sport Podcast with Jason Pine from News Talk ZB.
Before this podcast kicks off, let's talk about goals. The greatest goal is a native tree crowdfunding campaign, leaving a legacy for Aotearoa New Zealand as co-host of the FIFA Women's World Cup 2023. Visit treesthatcount.co.nz to donate a native tree for a brighter future.
Football Fever with News Talk ZB's voice of football, Jason Pine and Bonnie Jansen with Trees That Count. Donate a native tree and help us score the greatest goal.
Hello, welcome into Football Fever for today. This is your daily World Cup podcast in association with treesthatcount.co.nz. I'm Jason Pine. Bonnie Jansen from the New Zealand Herald is here as well. The round of 16 in the books. We have our 8 quarter-finalists confirmed. Last night, final match in Melbourne at this World Cup.
There is the full-time whistle and the roar rings out around the stadium here in Melbourne. Colombia through to the last 8.
They are indeed. They make the quarterfinals for the first time. They're just the second South American nation to reach the quarterfinals after Brazil, who have done it 4 times. And the first time we've had a South American side in the quarterfinals since Brazil in 2011. Bonnie, you watched the game, as did I. I think Colombia deserved it. Jamaica kind of had one plan, and that was to try not concede. Once they did, they didn't really have much going on at the other end.
Yeah, I was quite disappointed with this game. I had expectations that it was going to be quite thrilling and Jamaica were going to put up more of a fight, but Colombia were good from start to finish. I wouldn't say they were amazing, but they got the job done, and that first goal was a cracker that they scored, and they're through. Do they go through as the lowest ranked team into the quarterfinals?
Yeah, that sounds right to me. You look at the Netherlands, Spain, Japan, Sweden, Australia, France, England, Colombia. Yes, they will be. They will be the lowest ranked side, but I don't know. They've got a bit about them. Jamaica, as you say, they kind of didn't do anything at the other end, really. It was the first half in particular was one of the least compelling halves of the World Cup so far. Plenty of fouls, got a bit better after the break. But I don't know, Colombia, and just before we talk about the football, what about their fans? Incredible.
Yeah, that's something that will help them in their next match, because their next match is going to be a real challenge. I guess you disagree with me in terms they did look quite good, and I think they looked good over the likes of Jamaica, but interested to see how they go against a tougher opponent.
Oh, no, I didn't mean to suggest that they didn't look good. No, I just thought Jamaica were very limited, and a bit like the second game, where Morocco didn't really offer a lot. I think we had 2 games last night where there was one team that dominated the game, and in Colombia's case, they kind of had to huff and puff a bit before they got the goal. But as you say, what a goal. Captain for the night, Catalina Uzme, but the ball in from Ana Maria Guzman, she wasn't even supposed to really play. She's only playing because Manuela Venegas is suspended, but just she's drilled this thing in. But what about the 2 touches from Uzme, first to control and then to finish?
She whipped that ball across firstly, like to knock a ball from one side of the pitch almost to the other was pretty impressive. But those touches, and I was thinking, if only, and I keep going back to the United States because they're my favourite team, but if only the States were that clinical in front of goal. She brought that down so seamlessly, and that strike was great. So yeah, amazing goal, and good on Colombia for getting through. But as I say, I think this might be, the next match might be the end of their tournament. Yeah,
we can talk about that when we preview the quarterfinals. But no, I mean, look, I've watched that goal a couple of times this morning, and the first touch is just beautiful. The way she brings it down, but also takes it away from the defender, makes a room for herself and the finish is so assured. So yeah, I thought it was just in its aestheticness, if that's a word, just the way it looked, a wonderful goal. Jamaica going out means there'll be no CONCACAF representation in the quarterfinals for the first time in Women's World Cup history. Obviously, the US normally make it. Canada have come to that party recently, but Jamaica are out, so no CONCACAF sides in the last 8. We have to give it to Jamaica. That was the first goal they'd conceded at the World Cup after 5 hours and 22 minutes. It was the only one they ended up conceding. They only scored the one, so 2-0 all draws, a 1-0 win, and a 1-0 loss. I mean, they might not have been the most exciting team to watch, but there's lots of different ways to advance to the World Cup, right?
That's it. And I think I said it before, or at the start of the tournament, defence win leagues, but goals win tournaments. So if they weren't looking to score last night, then they've made it tough for themselves to go through. So a really good stint for them, and definitely a team to watch in the future.
Yeah, they only had that kind of, it's a name they call her Bunny, don't they? Bunny Shaw.
Yeah, Bunny Shaw.
Yeah, she was kind of their only source of goals, and, if they had a couple more creative players, who knows? And you have to hand it to them. They needed to crowdfund to even get to the World Cup, because the Jamaican Football Federation was just a spectacular waste of time when it comes to trying to get Jamaica any sort of assistance to get to this World Cup. They reached the round of 16 for the first time in their nation's history. You just hope that somebody pulls their head out of the sand back home in Jamaica and gives these players some support.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, a win can do so much for a nation in the sport, as we saw with New Zealand beating Norway. It's been game-changing for us, but to get into the knockout round for a team like Jamaica is even more huge. And I just saw overnight that FIFPro, the Players Association, have now started helping Nigeria with all their disputes in their federation. So hopefully the same can happen for these lower-ranked teams, and there's some more resource and things poured into them, because imagine how far they can take it with some support behind them.
100%. Yeah, Sarah Gregorius, football fern centurion, is quite high up in FIFPro. She'll no doubt be involved in that process. On the television coverage on Sky last night, between games, Anna Green, former football fern, was part of the panel on the couch, and I just thought she spoke so well about the challenges facing women's footballers, particularly in some of these countries where, like Jamaica and Nigeria, the support hasn't been forthcoming. And she said she's heard a lot over the last little while about, hey, footballers need to, you need to stay in your lane. You need to just worry about the game. And she said, for a time when all we have to worry about is the game. We just have to turn up and play, because that ain't the case for some of these nations.
No, it's not. And I just hope that this World Cup really starts to change that, and I'm confident that it will, and it won't be all. There's still going to be so many challenges that these women's teams face, and even in low, below that, and the age groups going down. But I think this has been a really statement tournament to show the possibility, with just a little support behind them and behind these teams and behind these competitions, what they're actually capable of.
Absolutely. So Colombia through 1-0 over Jamaica.
The Football Fever Podcast with Jason Pine and Bonnie Jansen, with trees that count. Donate a native tree and help us score the greatest goal.
Then we settled in to watch France against Morocco in Adelaide. It was 0-0 after 15 minutes. Then bang, bang, bang. France scored 3 goals in 8 minutes and then took the game away from Morocco. After that, there was only ever going to be one winner. I sent you a message saying this could get ugly. France must have taken their foot off the pedal a bit, because they ended up winning it 4-0. But there was only, even after the first goal or the second goal, there was only ever going to be one winner here, right?
There was, and I'd text you after that first half or midway through that first half saying I really liked the way France played and how clinical they were, and they liked to build up from the back and similar to how Spain liked to play, and I really liked that. But then I think they kind of took their foot off the pedal a little bit, and they got a little bit sloppy, and that gave me hope for Australia and when they play them in the quarterfinal match, because I didn't think France delivered a full 90-minute performance. Yes, they were the dominant team by a mile, but it wasn't I don't think they, were the cleanest from start to finish.
No, it wasn't their best performance, but didn't have to be. And you're right, it sets up an amazing quarterfinal. Goals from Kadidiatu Diane, Kenza Dali and Eugenia Lasoma in the first half, and Lasoma added another in the second half. Morocco pretty limited. One shot, it was off target. 2 touches in the French penalty area, just 25% possession. Hard to know how to assess Morocco's tournament. I mean, they're in the knockout rounds, but they've had a 6-0 loss to start and a 4-0 loss to finish. In between that, 1-0 wins. I guess you say, well, you make the quarterfinal, the round of 16. You kind of tick a box, don't you, for a team that's, 72nd in the world?
That's a thing, and as we were just talking about, it's huge for a nation like Morocco to be in this position, and it will change the game in their country. However, I was just talking to Michael Burgess, also a football journalist at the Herald, and he was saying it would have been great to have Germany there, to have another really exciting, thrilling match. I think last night was, dare I say it, probably the most boring night of the knockout round so far, just because there were two very dominant teams in each match. So yeah, Morocco, good on them for being there. I don't, it would have been nice to have a more competitive team there at the same time.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Very good point. But that's what happens at World Cups. Teams get through in all sorts of different ways. But we do have a blockbuster lineup in the quarterfinals. We'll look at that in just a moment on Football Fever.
While this podcast takes a halftime break, let's talk about The Greatest Goal, a crowdfunding campaign leaving a legacy for Aotearoa New Zealand as co-hosts of the FIFA Women's World Cup 2023 by asking fans to donate a native tree. Each native tree costs just $10, and whether you donate one or many, you'll be contributing to amazing restoration projects across Aotearoa. Visit treesthatcount.co.nz to donate a native tree and help us score the greatest goal. Looks like we're ready to kick off the second half.
Our quarterfinal lineup is complete. Friday at 1 in Wellington, the Netherlands against Spain. Friday 7:30 in Auckland, Japan against Sweden. The winners of those games will meet in the first semi at Eden Park on Tuesday. Saturday 7 o'clock Brisbane, Australia, France, and then 10:30 in Sydney, England, Colombia. The winners of those two will meet in the second semi in Sydney a week tonight. It's a pretty tasty quarterfinal lineup, isn't it?
It is. It's a really good-looking quarterfinal. And without the likes of the States and Canada and Brazil even there, it's still looking pretty good. I think England have the easiest match, just naturally in terms of rankings, taking on Colombia. But I am hoping for a Spain-Japan semi-final and an Australian-England semi-final.
All right, we'll preview these quarterfinals in greater detail on the day of them. I don't know, just back to Colombia. I know that they, could only eventually succumb Jamaica 1-0, but I don't mind them against England, I got to say. I mean, without Lauren James, and at the time of writing, the time of broadcasting, we don't know about her ban, and she'll certainly miss the next game. I don't mind Colombia as a bit of a smoky against England.
I feel like we disagree on this one. See, I didn't really rate them last night. Like, they were good and they dominated Jamaica, but I wouldn't say they're super exciting, and they haven't had a necessarily very tough opponent. Who did they need to beat to get into the... I can't remember who was in their group now, but I don't fancy them against England.
All right. Well, we'll see how that plays out. I think these 2 days of the tournament, Friday and Saturday, could be the 2 best days of the tournament, and it's been an outstanding tournament already. But with those 4 matches to look forward to, I just think it's going to be an absolutely cracking bunch of quarterfinals.
Yeah, it's going to be huge. I was looking at flights to see whether I could come down to Wellington for the 1 o'clock game and then get up to Auckland in time for the Japan-Sweden game, but I think it's going to be cutting it too fine. I
think there are people doing that. I know of a couple actually who are definitely doing that because of the, if you hope that the early game doesn't go into extra time and penalties. Let's say it doesn't. It's all over by 3. You're out to the airport by 4. You land in Auckland, 5:30, 6 o'clock? Plenty of time to get to Eden Park, even in Friday night traffic. I reckon it's doable.
And I feel like we need to see a game together, Piney, because we haven't been to a game together yet. I feel like we need to sit there in the crowd and have a beer and watch a game.
And record the podcast at the same time.
A live potty, eh?
Yeah, well, there'll be nothing wrong with it. But the quarterfinals, regardless of who's there and who gets through, like I say, I think they're going to be absolutely cracking games of football, these 4 on Friday and on Saturday.
The Football Fever Podcast with Jason Pine and Bonnie Jansen with Trees That Count. Donate a native tree and help us score the greatest goal.
Just a couple of extras before we finish. As I say, we don't know yet about Lauren James's suspension, but I see Nigerian player Michelle Alosi, who was the one trodden on by Lauren James, tweeted last night, "We're playing on the world stage. This game is one of passion, insurmountable emotions and moments. All respect for Lauren James." And Lauren James replied and said, "All my love and respect to you. I'm sorry for what happened. Also for our England fans and my teammates playing with and for you. is my greatest honour, and I promise to learn from my experience. So, nice that they could, and like you said on the podcast yesterday, Bonnie, it wasn't as though there was any real malice. Michelle Alosi wasn't injured in any way. It was more sort of indignation, like, well, what's just happened? But we wait to see whether Lauren James could play any further part in this tournament. That's right, and I don't think Lauren James, was thinking in the moment, and she will learn from it. And I'm not taking away it wasn't a good thing to do, but I did see a tweet that she might not find out till after their quarterfinals, so she's got quite a few days to nervously wait. And I was thinking, do they train her, and do they start like bringing her in for tactical plays, or because England have to wait now. So why would they have to wait? I don't get that. Why? There's plenty, when somebody gets sent off or whatever, the disciplinary committee get together normally in the next day or two, don't they? And they make their decision about any ban beyond the mandatory one match. Surely they could. I mean, when was the game? A couple of nights ago. They should surely hurry it through. It's a World Cup. Yeah, it's a World Cup. What else are you doing? Yeah. Disciplinary committee. I think the Nigerian player, though, coming out and understanding and not taking it, to heart or anything, has really helped Lauren James's case. And not that I don't think the disciplinary committee will be reading into that too much, or might not even see it, but if they do, it's certainly helped the case that there's not been a big uproar since. Yeah, it feels to me just kind of trying to read the vibe, and it's only really just a gut feel, is that most people would like to see Lauren James back in this tournament, but disciplinary committees at this level don't take any notice of sentiment or public opinion, really. They just make their decision based on the hard and fast rules, and violent conduct almost always results in a 3-match ban, regardless of how violent or not that conduct is. If you're sent off for violent conduct, it's very rare not to get 3 weeks or 3 matches. Well, maybe the fact that originally the ref awarded a yellow might help the case. However, England aren't taking it further. I don't think they're kind of countering it or sending a complaint. So that might not help the case. Who knows? But Lauren James is a huge loss, but at the same time that England squad have a lot of depth, so I don't think they will be too panicked. All right, we'll bring that news to you. Well, you'll hear it across our broadcast platforms as soon as we know. Just a couple of extras. I don't know if you knew this, but do you know that there's a chip inside the footballs that can send all sorts of data back to the broadcasters and to the analysts? And the winning penalty for England on Monday night, Chloe Kelly's winning penalty that she drilled into the top corner, that was the fastest shot recorded at this World Cup. It was travelling at 110.79 kilometres per hour. It's insane. I did know there was a chip in the ball, and they're getting those measurements now at this World Cup, and I don't think they had it at the Men's World Cup, which is cool for the women's game to have something first. But yeah, huge strike. But we were all joking in the office yesterday and trailing out Chloe Kelly's hop that she did before she struck the ball. Maybe that's the secret to getting more pace on it. You can do a little kangaroo hop before you come in and smash it. Watch for young boys and girls to do that in penalties around the world in the weeks and months ahead. And just a word on television viewership in Australia. The Matildas win over Denmark the other night reached 6.54 million people on Channel 7. That's the free-to-air provider over there. It's officially the most watched TV event of the year. More viewers tuning in than every State of Origin match this year, and more than last year's AFL Grand Final. And that's before you take into account those who are watching on Optus, which is the pay-for-view streaming service over in Australia. So massive audiences tuning in over there. It gives me goosebumps, Piney, and there's been so many firsts at this tournament, and to go through them all would just and relive it will be something I'm going to do post-tournament. But it's been really, really positive for the women's game, and we've still got some super exciting matches to come that'll no doubt break more records. But just so proud that New Zealand and Australia could pull it off as co-hosts. Absolutely. Well, you'd have to think that record of 6.54 million is going to be beaten when the Matildas play France on Saturday. It's 7:30 our time, so 5:30 in the afternoon over there. Can you just imagine? The whole nation's going to go absolutely football mad. No games tonight, so Football Fever is going to take a break tomorrow, a very rare break in proceedings. We'll be back on Friday, though, to preview the first two of those quarterfinals in great depth, the ones that are both in New Zealand. Have an excellent day or two, Bonnie. We'll see you on Friday.
Look forward to it, Piney.
Look forward to it as well. A fresh podcast or fresh episode of Football Fever will drop into your podcast feed just before lunchtime on Friday. We'll see you then.
In this post-match review, let's score the greatest goal by donating a native tree to leave a legacy for Aotearoa New Zealand as co-hosts of the FIFA Women's World Cup 2023. Visit treesthatcount.co.nz to donate a native tree for a brighter future.
For more from Weekend Sport with Jason Pine, listen live to News Talk ZB weekends from midday or follow the podcast on iHeartRadio.